Hello everybody and welcome to another one of my videos. I am Unovan Smeargle. I think it all says right there on the tin. I am a Unova fan. I'm also a Smeargle fan, and I, make some TCG content on the side. So here we go. I was digging through my Pokemon cards the other day, just looking to see if I could find anything to fill up my Hoenn or Unova binder. And I remembered that I had this deck, and I wanted to just do a quick deck tech on it. To be fair, it is a glass cannon. It is not something that I would say take to a tournament, although if you want to, take it to a tournament. I think it is extended legal. There are a few cards that just aren't in here because 4 years ago when I was building the deck, I just did not go out of my way to collect them. I will point out the particular card that definitely stands out as needing to be in here. But let's talk about this Castform deck, because the conceit of it is that there are no energy. There are absolutely no energy in this deck. We're reading completely off of this weather reading ability, and like I said, we'll go over it real quick. We'll go through my suite of Pokemon, the trainer cards, or sorry, the supporter cards, the items, and the stadiums, and yeah, let's get down to it and talk about this Castform deck, because I love it. Alright, so right off the bat, we have Castform, just the normal type Castform, basic Pokemon, 70 health, has the ability Weather Reading, which like I said is what the entire deck is built around, and then just 3 colorless for an 80 damage attack, draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. So there are 2 copies of this, because I would say this might be the worst of the Castforms that we have. Obviously, you've already gotten a sneak preview of them, but this might be the worst one because its draw ability is situational. At the same time, it is a nice way to just get 80 damage through pretty regularly. And I will say that when this deck is really running at all cylinders, that weather reading ability is something that's turned on as early as turn 2. It probably could be earlier than that. It's just that I have not optimized this deck to try to do that. But yes, this is probably the worst of the 4 Castforms. The ability to draw additional cards is helpful, but it definitely is the one that if I'm starting out and my hand just doesn't look like it's going to be able to do anything, this is the one that I will put out in the lead. I will also comment on the fact that I am not 100% on all of the rules of Pokemon. Like I said, this is an extended deck. I do not play in paper anymore. 4 years ago, I was playing over online, and I think I brought this to like 1 tournament. It was a glass cannon. I think it actually did fairly well. I think I won 3 rounds, which should say something. Then we have 2 copies of the Castform Rainy Form, again 70 hit points, has the weather reading ability. Oh, additionally, I guess I should point out that none of these have a retreat cost. That is significant. Obviously, on this one we have the weakness to fighting. This one has a weakness to electric or lightning. Weather reading ability is the exact same. The rainfall ability is this attack deals 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Don't apply weakness or resistance for benched Pokemon. So this is just nice. It allows you to get some spread damage. It allows you to set it up so that really your opponent has nowhere to hide. They can't throw their weakened Pokemon onto the bench and get away with it. Even if all you do is you get out you maybe get 20 or 40 damage across the entire game. That can be enough to take out utility Pokemon. That can be enough to take out weakened Pokemon that you just happen to get very close to, but you weren't able to make it all the way. This is probably, I know I said Castform colorless might be the weakest. This is easily right behind it. If it is not the weakest, then this is the weakest. It's not great, but it is nice to have. It does have the, it is a water Pokemon, which does help. There are a lot. When I was playing, there was a lot of fire Pokemon, where if nothing else, this was at least doing 40 damage to the lead Pokemon, or the active Pokemon, whatever it's called. And yeah, this is not stellar, but it is nice to have just as part of the package of Pokemon that we have in this deck. Getting into our big hitters, we have Castform Snowy Form. So again, 70 hit points. This one has a Steel weakness and the Frosty Typhoon ability, which again, we don't really care about the energy. During your next turn, this Pokemon cannot use Frosty Typhoon, which is relevant, but it does have free retreat, but it deals 120 damage. This is the part of the glass cannon effect of this deck. This can start doing 120 damage, and like I said, on turn 2. Obviously against the V Pokemon, against EXs or whatever, like this is nothing. Although here's the part of what makes this deck really great is this can dole out a bunch of damage, and it does, and we'll get into this and one other type obviously, it's fire, do hit pretty good wide swath of Pokemon. So that means that damage can be doubled up. But part of the conceit and what makes this deck really good is the fact that you are never presenting anything more than one prize Pokemon. It allows you to actually build up a certain amount of tempo. You did use your EX to take out one of my Pokemon, but actually it only takes me 2 of mine to take out one of yours, and we both walk away with the same amount of prizes. Obviously, the tempo can get thrown off. You can get into a situation where no matter what you do, they are going to win. They're going to take their 6 prizes, and that's fine. But this deck just steals wins, and this is one of the Pokemon that does that because it can deal 120 damage, it can deal 240 damage, all relevant. Like I said, it does not take down the biggest things in the meta, but it certainly felled some giants. Then rounding out our cast forms, we have Castform Sunnyform. Again, 70 has the weakness to water and the high pressure blast. So it deals 150 damage and discard a stadium in play. If you cannot, this attack does nothing. We are already looking to try to get 8 stadiums into the discard pile. This is a Pokemon that I will definitely keep in my hand. Obviously, you need to consider that somebody might have a way to make you shuffle your hand back into your deck, and you're not going to lose access. This is a Pokemon I don't want my opponents to know that I have. I want to drop it, swap it into play, deal its 150 damage. You lose a stadium. This is all of them come with a certain amount of weakness. Obviously, this one you have to burn a stadium. That's not always something you can do. This one you can't use 2 turns in a row. This only deals 80 damage, does draw you cards, and this does spread damage. All of them do have their weaknesses, but I will say that the Rainy and the Sunny forms are just, they are glass cannons. They will do exactly what you need to do. They will steal games, and you have so many stadiums. We'll get into all the stadiums, but we have so many stadiums that we can get those 8 into the discard pile, and then we can just start dropping stadiums that we're going to burn. This also helps because sometimes your opponent plays stadiums. I don't know how much those play into the current meta, but at least in terms of the meta that I was running into, yeah, this was this was a fun card to play with. But those are not the only Pokemon that we will be running in this deck, because while the Castforms will be the primary attackers, we do have other cards that we do need to have. Now we have 2 copies of this Mew. Has 60 hit points, has the ability Bench Barrier, prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by your opponent's attacks. That is the primary use. It just sits in play and it just protects you from losing your benched Pokemon. Obviously it has a weakness to Psychic, and it has a Psi Power ability that we're never going to use, but it, put 3 damage counters onto your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. We're never going to cross that bridge. I don't even know if there's a way that we can steal an energy from another Pokemon. I don't know if there's a way that we can lower that cost of an attack. It's possible that those cards exist. That's not what this is for. This is just to come into play, get put onto the bench. Somebody tries to boss's orders it back into play so that they can defeat it, and we just swap it back. But either way, yeah, this is completely just there. We want 2 of them so that we don't get our only copy in the prize pile. We are hopefully going to avoid that. But yeah, this is just here to protect our barrier, or to protect our bench. I think it's pretty obvious. I think anybody who has experience with these cards, I'm not telling you any new information, but yeah, I love this Mew. It was such a, probably a very well-known card, but it was definitely a card that when I found it, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I need. Then we've got 2 copies of Snorlax, which has 130 health, and how's that spelled? How's that pronounced? Gourmandize? I don't know how do you pronounce this, but once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, you may draw cards until you have 7 cards in your hand. If you use this ability, end your turn. So the primary idea here is that we are going to be basically discarding our hand as much as possible. We will get into the cards that will enable that, but this just allows us to draw back up, and it allows us to really work through our deck really fast to find these stadiums. I will also say it's entirely possible that I got this deck from a content creator 4 or 5 years ago, and I just don't remember it. I think I just saw the cast forms in the ETB that I got for my birthday a couple years ago and just went, what can I do with this? And I might have just put in cast form Pokemon TCG and found this deck. I will even do the research while I'm doing all this to see if I can find the list that I may have pulled this from, because I fully believe that a YouTuber may have already presented this deck, but I just love it so much that I want to talk about it. This Snorlax is just primarily here to just keep us drawing cards, and it's amazing for what it's able to do, and I really enjoy this card. I love being able to rep a original 151 card. Obviously, we're already doing that with Mew, but to find a Snorlax that does this is just stupendous. Then we've got one copy of Marshadow, which has got 80 hit points and has the resetting hole ability. Once during your turn, before you attack, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard any stadium card in play. If you do, discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it. So this is just here to be our way to get that 8th stadium into the discard pile. It's just there to sit on our bench and just take out the stadium when we need it to help build that tempo. Obviously, it has its ability that it has its attack that we're never going to use. But yeah, I just love this for the ability to go, okay, you have a stadium that's advantageous for you. I'm going to just drop Marshadow and just get it out of here. It's helping me to work towards what I'm trying to do, but also it's just helping me to defend against strategies that I don't enjoy. Again, taking out our opponent's stadiums is not going to do anything for our Castforms, because they specifically are looking for the stadiums to be in your discard pile, but still, this does multiple things. It's got that lenticular design to it. And then last Pokemon is Oranguru, 120 hit points, but it's got the Primal Wisdom ability. Again, the attack doesn't matter. Once during your turn, you may switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck. This is just helpful to help you see an additional card every turn. It allows you to tuck away something. It allows you to tuck away a Pokemon to then use a Pokeball of some kind, whether it be the Quick Ball or the Level Ball that we'll get into. I don't remember. Did I have Ultra Balls in this deck? I don't think I did. I think in the original version of this deck that I was using online, there might have been Ultra Balls, if I remember what Ultra Balls do correctly. I don't recall. But either way, this is just not a crucial card, but definitely is nice to be able to just swap out a card and do something different. Moving on to the stadiums, because I believe the stadiums are probably the second most important part of this deck. Some of these do have some techie things to them. These could be any suite of stadiums. So right off the bat, we've got Chaotic Swell, a stadium. Whenever either player plays a stadium card from their hand, discard that stadium after discarding this one. So somebody will, play out a stadium. You play this out. Somebody else plays out a stadium for turn. Both of them get discarded. This is just a way to enable us to basically always have a way to churn through stadiums. And there's 4 of them because we just want to do that. There's not much more to it. I think it says what it does on the tin. It literally is just there. It is slow. I will fully admit that. You play it out and you have to wait a turn to then play out another stadium to have them both go away, and suddenly it's like, okay, so now I have 3 of 8. What else am I going to do here? But yeah, this is just a nice tech card to be able to do that. 4 copies of Path to the Peak, Pokemon with a rules box in play. Both you and yours have no abilities. This is Pokemon V, Pokemon GX, etc. have rule boxes. So this is one that you probably are going to let sit and play for a little while. It's a good card to have out for your Sunny form. Just have it out. Basically, we don't care about any of this, but our opponents might. So it might just be a card that just completely turns off what they're trying to do, their entire strategy for a turn. And sometimes that can be enough to just, like I said, change the tempo of the game. And then, again, we don't need to get rid of it, but it is a good card to do, or a good stadium to have out when we have our Sunny form just as a target to get rid of the stadium. Then we've got 2 copies of Dyna Tree Hill. I think I had 3 copies originally, and I had to substitute a card in. And it's possible that my kids were looking through my Pokemon cards, and because this has a pink tree on it, it just went missing. But either way, I think there are supposed to be 3 copies, and I substituted a card we'll get to in a little bit out for this. But this just has the very basic text. Pokemon, yours, and your opponent's cannot be healed. This is nice. There is another stadium that I must have just never bought. Old Cemetery, where if a energy gets attached to a non-psychic Pokemon, they take amount of damage. This is just kind of like a nice 1-2 punch. You put that out, you basically force your opponent to take some damage, and then you later substitute it out for Dyna Tree Hill. Things can't be healed unless they have an answer to it, which usually, in my experience, opponents will have an answer to something like this within a turn or 2. But again, just being able to kind of force their hand, they can't heal back up or whatever. There's a part of me that kind of looks forward to stadiums maybe coming to Pokemon Pocket, because I think they'd be really cool effect, although at the same time I feel like the game doesn't need that. It's already different enough. But yeah, this is just, could be anything. This is not crucial to the deck, but it definitely has its moments when it's at least a thorn in someone's side. And then last thing here is Rose Tower, which once during each player's turn, that player may draw cards until they have 3 cards in hand. This is just nice because sometimes you get down to like no cards and you just need to find that last stadium to turn your Castform on, and this is a way to do it. And generally, my opponents will take advantage of this at some point, but their deck is not nearly as tuned to be able to use this as mine is, so generally it's a card that basically I only benefit from, and that's just great. Moving on to items, I will say the one card that I do not have in this deck, and it might be because it was really expensive at the time. I looked at the deck today. I think this deck only cost like $23. By the time I had battle compressors in my online version of the deck, that's not something that I have here. And yeah, the cards up on screen, it was definitely very, very good for what we're trying to do, but we're going to try to supplement that a little bit here. So first of all, when I substituted in the missing Dyna Hill, this is the card I put in there, Stadium Nav. Flip 2 coins for each head, search your deck for a stadium card and reveal it, then put it into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So this was definitely an effect I know I used at one point, but I'm pretty sure I got rid of them at some point because I just was like, this is better just being a stadium. But yeah, this is just a nice card that I have to just go through and hopefully get you an extra stadium or 2. You have a pretty good chance of grabbing at least 1, and that's nice. Then we have 3 copies of Crushing Hammer, a item card with flip a coin. If heads, discard an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. This probably is not very good. It definitely helps because we don't care about energy, but our opponents obviously do. And just being able to basically reset one of their turns is not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, it's a 50-50 chance, but at the same time, maybe this card is great in other contexts or has been reprinted and is great. I'm not saying this is a stellar card. This is probably one of those cards that you could easily go down a couple pieces, and you know, this is where some of these cards could be battle compressors. Then we have some of the crucial cards here. We've got Level Ball. Search your deck for a Pokemon with 90 hit points or less. That gets us everything except for, I think, Snorlax and Oranguru. So this is our way to find Marshadow. This is our way to find Mew. This is our way to find any of our Castform. And yeah, just perfectly set up for this deck to thrive. And I think if I remember correctly, I think Ultra Ball was kind of like this. But okay, let's see. You can only play this card if you discard another card from your hand. So we're going to discard Stadiums. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon and reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So I believe Ultra Balls are you have to discard 2 cards, which is also nice because then you can just discard 2 Stadiums. Or just 2 cards you don't care about. I've got an extra Snorlax. I'll just discard it. Obviously, in this context, you're not going to discard a Snorlax to go get a Snorlax. This is nice because all of our Pokemon are basic, so we can go get any Pokemon we want. This is generally how I would go to get my second copy of Snorlax. Just the one Snorlax got defeated, put out another Snorlax, use the free retreat to put it into play, and then just draw back up to 7 cards. Obviously, this also just is a nice way to discard a card to go find any of our Castforms while also putting a stadium into the discard pile. I suppose I didn't even point that out, did I? So how many stadiums do I have here? So I have 14 stadiums. I think the version of the deck that I was playing online had 15 stadiums. And again, those 15 stadiums could be anything. So we're going to have a really good shot of quick ball discarding a stadium to go get one of our Pokemon. 4 copies of Switch, because sometimes you have a Snorlax in play and you're ready to have your Castform start to do their thing. Sometimes you have somebody boss's order out your Pokemon that can't do anything, and you just switch it right back into your Castform. The best part for me is when people will put my Castform out, thinking that, oh, I've turned off their Snorlax, and then I just use the free retreat to put Snorlax back out. And obviously, at that point, you gotta start digging. You gotta find a switch. There is such a small chance that all 4 of your switches are going to end up in your prizes. You are going to have this card when you need it, almost guaranteed. And rounding out everything, let's talk about the trainers. I'm very excited about these. So we've got Zinnia's Resolve, which you can only play this card if you discard 2 cards from your hand. We're going to discard Stadiums. Draw a card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. This can be a card where you definitely lose card advantage. You could be discarding 2 Stadiums to draw a card, and that doesn't look great, but at the same time, you put 2 Stadiums into your discard pile. It's important to also remember that we're now talking about the Sporters. Veterans are going to know you can only play 1 Sporter at a time, but this is definitely something where this is similar to our quick ball, where it's just a way for us to get cards into the discard pile. This does so much good work. I almost want 4 copies. I don't know why there aren't 4 copies. Maybe there's a card in here I'm looking at and I'll go, yeah, I should definitely swap that out for Zinnia's Resolve. Then we've got 3 copies of Professor's Research. This could be any Professor's Research. We got Magnolia here though. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards. I think it's pretty clear that there's no reason why we don't want to just discard our hand. Sometimes you do find yourself with like just no stadiums, so at this point you're just using it to dig, and this helps at all points in the game. Is this like a print defect one? It might be a print defect one, because yeah, this is much more clear. This is all whatever. Either way, but yes, you discard your hand, draw 7 cards. I think everybody knows this card, and it does so much good work in this deck. Then, in terms of cards that I don't think anybody is going to remember, we've got Professor Burnet. Search your deck for up to 2 cards and discard them. Then shuffle your deck. So this is like the Battle Compressor. I think the Battle Compressor, you search your deck for 3 cards and put them into the discard pile. The Professor Burnet is a supporter that goes and gets you 2 cards. This is probably a very bad card, but in this deck, it is such a glass cannon. It helps to build that glass cannon. It's just like, okay, so I used my level ball to go do this, or I used my quick ball to do that. I used put out a stadium, use the quick ball to discard a stadium, go grab Marshadow, put Marshadow into play, blow up the stadium engine to head, Professor Burnet, and suddenly on the first turn I've got 4 or 5 stadiums already in my discard pile. It feels great. Yeah, this is a out of left field card that I really love, and yeah, I already like the character. I think Professor Burnet is a character that I'm sad that we only got to see in a eShop game, and then I think loosely in the Sun and Moon games, but like not full on. I think she's just awesome. Then we've got 2 copies of Boss's Order. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. This is just nice because we can you just do what you always do with Boss's Order. You just get your opponent into a position that they don't want, and usually this is what's helping you to close out the game. And then last cards in the deck is Cynthia. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. This is just nice because sometimes you have a dead hand, and Cynthia just allows you to look at 6 new cards, and it's great. And yeah, there's not much more to it. This is all just about accruing card advantage, and sometimes card advantage in the weirdest ways possible. But that is it. That is what did I call this deck? I think I called it like the Overcast deck, but yeah, I love this. It's a glass cannon deck. It's featuring Castform, and yeah, just overall, great time, and yeah, you should definitely keep it in mind. Until the next video, and I do have one other deck that I'd like to talk about, and maybe I'll talk about that in the future. But until next time, have a great day. You're doing great. Keep it up.